let's talk about getting your parents off of your back. Because I have so many teens that reach out to me and they're like, Abbi, help me. I'm not communicating with my parents. They just don't get me. We fight all the time. We don't have a great relationship. And so I'm going to give you some of my best tips to getting your parents off your back and to instantly improving your relationship with your parents. So let's dive right in. Okay, so I literally was born with like the best parents in the whole world. So I apologize to everybody else because I had the best parents in the whole world, and I just feel bad that everybody wasn't raised by Dale and Sharon. But even with the best parents in the whole world, I still remember feeling like, ugh, my parents don't get me. And I remember my mom specifically talking to me about this first tip. And this first tip will change your relationship with your parents almost instantly. Like almost overnight. So if you need a quick fix, try this first tip, which is to adjust your tone of voice. Yeah, your girl Abbi here. This is one of the hardest things that I have had to figure out and learn, especially as a teenager, was that my words and my tone of voice weren't always translating. And I think sometimes we do this consciously where we're like, okay, mom, or whatever. But sometimes we're doing it unknowingly and we come across a little bit harsh, a little bit intense, a little bit irritated, and we don't necessarily mean it. We're not necessarily looking for a fight, but we just say things like, okay, yeah, I'll get it done, right? And that comes across to our parents as harsh, as irritable, as I don't want to talk to you. And it can really just start to pick apart your relationship. And I'm sure that as a teenager, because most of us do this, we struggle with our tone of voice, especially when talking to our parents. If you want to instantly get your parents off your back, if you want to instantly improve your relationship with your parents, start to work on your tone of voice. And at first, it's gonna feel so weird. And at first, it's gonna feel sugary and weird and just like not exactly like what you want to say. Because believe me, it's easier to be like, okay, whatever, mom, right? And we truly mean like whatever, but it just is coming across so harsh. Our tone of voice matters so much. When it comes to like speaking and talking to somebody else, all the parts of communication play into that. So the actual words that I say, they account for, and I wish I should have pulled these stats up, but they account for about 10%. Can you believe that? Like only 10% are the actual words I'm saying with my mouth of, I want to go to the movie. That counts for 10%. You know, about 20% to 30% is like my body and what I'm doing with it. Because there's a difference of, I want to go to the movie and I want to go to the movie, right? And I try to keep my tone the same in that to show you that example of like my body language, what I'm doing with my face, my body, my expressions. That all translates too. And that other person's brain says, oh, I don't think she really wants to go to the movie. Or, wow, she really is excited to go to the movie, right? And then there's our tone of voice. Because there's a huge difference between, I want to go to the movie, 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 right? Like, all those things tell you something way different than the actual words of I want to go to the movie. So I want to challenge you when it comes to your mom and dad, please, please, please take your tone of voice and we're just going to up it. We're just going to add some sugar. We're going to add some spice. We're going to add some like joy. We're just going to sprinkle that all in there because your parents deserve that. They need that reassurance. And I promise you, it will pay off tenfold for you because they're going to take your words more at face value and understand you better if you can start to use your tone of voice. Oh man, I spent forever talking about that, but it's so important. So number one, just your tone of voice. Number two, you ready for this? This is not gonna make you happy. Don't fight the rules. Now, before you start blowing up the comment section on this or my DMs and Instagram, I just wanna hear me out on this. I know that not all parents set great rules. I know that not all parents set rules that are fair. I know that not all parents set the same rules as other parents. And I know that sometimes your parents set rules that are absolutely, completely ridiculous. I totally know that, because guess what? Parents are humans and humans make mistakes, right? And guess what? Especially if you're one of the older kids in your family, your parents are learning how to parent, right? And there's different parenting styles. There's strict styles, there's loose styles, there's everything in between. And so please, 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 I know that not all rules are created equal. But what I want you to invite you to do, instead of fighting your parents on their rules and their 10 o'clock curfew and that you can't have friends over at this time and they're so strict, and besides just hitting heads on that constantly, I want to invite you to start to discuss the rules with your parents and just go in super neutral and just ask them and talk to them, see what their logic is behind it. And then hopefully in that conversation, when you're using a good tone of voice, this is the secret. This is why it's number 2. Because if you come in there with the wrong tone of voice, it's never gonna work. But if you can come in there calm, collected, and just talk to your parents, I promise you, you're gonna find a little bit more democracy in those rules. You're going to be able to have a little bit more say. And you are gonna be able to figure out what works best for you and your parents. Some rules aren't gonna give, and we're just gonna have to accept that. And some rules, we're gonna be a little bit shocked that we can find some common ground with our parents. So I want to invite you that instead of fighting their rules, we discuss them in a calm, adult manner. And this all goes back to your tone of voice, because how you approach that meeting is gonna be huge. Okay, this rule is huge, and it's this. Show them that you are ready for more. Now, one thing I get a lot, and that I've learned as a life coach for young adults, for teenagers, is that teenagers, they want to be treated like adults. And hey, doesn't everybody, right? We all want to be treated with respect, and we want to be given responsibilities, and we want to do what we want to do, right? We want to experience freedom and independence. But for a lot of teenagers, they don't want to pick up the other end of that stick, which is then we have to act like an adult. So if you want your parents to treat you like an adult, we pick up that stick, and on the other side is we have to act like an adult. So how we show our parents that we are ready for more and that we want to be treated like an adult is that we start to act like an adult. So we start to do the basics. We start to clean up after ourselves. We start to honor and respect their rules, because I know that it's kind of hard to think about it this way, but if you took a step back and said, if I worked at a business, if my home life was a business, I'd get fired if I didn't follow the rules, right? So every company I've ever worked at in my corporate career, there were rules, right? There was times I had to show up to work, and I had to work so long, and I could go to lunch for so long, and I had to take care of these clients, and I had to do these things. And guess what? If I didn't do those things, or if I constantly was late to work every day, or if I left work at 2 every day, or if I, didn't take care of those clients or answer emails, I would be fired, or I'd be let go, or at the very least, I'd be talked to by my boss, right? So let's start to treat like our home life a little bit like a job, and just saying, okay, there's certain things that I have to do to earn respect, to earn my keep, and to feel like I'm contributing to this family, right? So if you are struggling with your parents and feeling like, oh, they just treat me like a kid and they don't give me any responsibility or anything like that, I want to challenge you. If we're going to pick up that stick of like, please treat me like an adult, we're picking up the other side of it that says, okay, and I'm going to act like an adult. Okay, this tip also is a pretty instant, immediate, add points to your emotional bank account with your parents kind of tip. So pay attention. And that is to update without being asked. Now, what I mean by update is literally updating your parents with a text, with your life, with your relationships, with what's going on. Yes, I am assuming with this tip that you have an open, I'm talking to my parents kind of relationship. But if you are struggling with that, this can help. We'll just start in baby steps and we'll move up to bigger ones. So your parents, I know sometimes this is hard to believe, or it just doesn't seem like it. They love you so much. They just want the best for you. They're just trying their best to be parents. And guess what? It doesn't come with a manual. It's so hard to be a parent. But as a parent, it's so important to have updates on your kids and to check in with them, because they can't read your mind. So I'm sure your parents are always asking you, hey, let me know what you're doing. And they ask you about your day. They ask you about school, right? And I'm sure that, especially if you're struggling with your relationship with them, you've been like, oh, yeah, it's fine. Whatever. Don't ask me about that. Stay out of my life. Let me do my thing. I want to challenge you to start to update your parents without being asked. So that starts with as simple as, hey, I'm out late with my friends. They know I'll be back by midnight, but I'm going to send them a text that just says, hey, we're finishing up at the restaurant and then we're going to Sarah's house. Just thought I'd let you know. Okay, first of all, that's like starting to act like an adult, right? This goes into all those buckets of what we're talking about. We throw in an emoji, so our tone of voice is nice. We're checking in with our parents. We're showing them that we're responsible, right? It's as simple as a text. It's as simple as going home and saying, hey, mom and dad, I did really good on my math test. And I know that I haven't been pulling the best grades in math, but I'm starting to get this chapter. 2 sentences. That is all I'm asking for here, people. That's as simple as, and this one I get, I remember the first time my mom asked me, I'd been on a date with a guy and she came home and they were like, how was your date? And I was like, it was fine, right? The typical just one word answer. And she was like, do you really like this guy? And I remember my heart stopping and being like, I'm going to tell my mom, but I'm like, yeah, I really like this guy. I had the best time and I think he's super cute. I get that is a more of an intimate relationship to be able to share that with your mom and be like, Mom, I really like this guy. But that goes so far for your parents. Your parents just want to be part of your life. And while it's tempting to shut them out because you're like, they don't know anything and they don't know about my life and blah, blah, blah. If you will update them in little ways, you don't have to gush about everything. You don't have to all of a sudden be more than what you are, right? If that's not your personality to share, but just start to update them. And I would challenge you to just start with text. Just start with text of, hey, on my way home, smiley face. It will go so far. And I get that you're like, oh, Abby, that tip sucks. That tip is not one that I want to do. I'm not giving this tip for the benefit of your parents. I'm giving you this tip for the benefit of yourself. It will change your relationship with your parents. It will get them off your back, and it will make high school, college, beyond easier because you're just starting to open up those gates and show them, hey, I'm responsible. I can check in with you. I love you. I'm doing fine. Don't worry. So I know this might seem like, oh man, Abby's telling me to be nice to my parents, which I'm always going to tell you that. But it's more, I want to take care of you, right? You are the one that I'm doing these videos for. So do this for you. And I just challenge you, do these tips for a week and see the difference it'll make with your relationship with your parents. Okay, babe, those are the tips that I have for you today. And again, I want to reiterate that. Try these for a week. I know that some of you are like, oh, that's never going to work with my parents. You don't understand my situation. Before you reach out to me, before you leave your comment about how this won't work, try it for a week. And then I just want to see what happens. I just want you to see what happens. And I would not be shocked if your parents come to you and they're like, hey, I just feel like this week went really well. Or, thanks for doing this. Your relationship can start to change instantly the moment you decide to do different things, right? We do things to get an outcome, right? And the things that you're doing right now probably aren't creating the outcome that you want. So if you want more freedom, more trust, more respect, to be treated like an adult, try out these tips. So I hope this helped you out. Please, if you're looking for more tips on how to master high school and beyond for young adults, check out my channel, Abbi Winslow, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. So talk to you later, babe.